All right, so there's a list going around ranking every team based on what they're going to be spending on their blue line this season, and I found that fascinating because Vegas is at the top at over $41 million on their blue line. Then I think it was Jersey, then the Rangers, then the Wild, LA, and Washington, all in the mid 30s. Carolina is actually 27th at $25 million being spent on our blue line in 2026. So the team that just won the Stanley Cup has one of the cheapest defenses in the National Hockey League. And that blows my mind because of how good our defense is, too, right? But that's not even the interesting part. The interesting part is who's below us. So there's five teams that spend less on their defense than Carolina does. We had Vancouver at 18.4, Anaheim at 22.5 million, Detroit at 23.4, Calgary at 24.4 million, and Chicago at 24.7 million, right? And that's the list. And those are teams that are in a state of like rebuild, right? And some of them did pretty well last year. But then compare that to the Stanley Cup champions are the ones right above them. And Carolina spends like a team that's kind of like in more of a rebuild, but we're actually the team raising the banner. So at 25 million, what that buys us in Raleigh, we've got Keandre Miller at 7.5 million, Slavin at 6.4 million, Sean Walker at 3.6 million, Shane Gostisbehere at 3.2 million, Chatfield at right around 3 million, and then plugged in there is about $1.2 million entry level money at the bottom. We know what that's about, right? So we've got six defensemen for less than Vegas spends, $16 million less, actually. And we beat Vegas in the final in 6 games. It's kind of mind blowing because our defense has been our backbone, like our blue line, right? So look at the teams stacked above us. New Jersey spending 36.5 million, Rangers 35.9 million, the Wild at 35.6 million, LA at 35.9 million, and Washington at right about 35 million. So every one of them spends like $10 million or more than the Stanley Cup champions do on defense. And that's pretty fascinating. If you look at Florida, that was interesting too, because they're spending 27.4 million, so more than us. But not quite up at that top level that we are seeing the top tier spend on the blue line. The Slavin one is the one that gets me every time too, right? And I saw a lot of stuff. I wish Slavin was getting more national respect, but $6.4 million for the guy who is, real argument, best defensive defenseman on the planet. 9 straight seasons. He's getting Norris votes. I talked about in another video why that, is kind of rigged against him. But he's got two Lady Bings, Olympic gold, and the Stanley Cup, which is what he and we care about the most, obviously. And he's taking a deal to stay in Raleigh. Obviously he could have gotten more elsewhere, 8, 9 million, but he didn't try to find out. And then last season, he missed 30 games with the lower body injury, 30 games, right? And Carolina, we finished with the best record in the Eastern Conference anyway, 16-3 in the playoffs. Obviously he was back for that, but that's the whole organization, right? In just one simple story there about how Tulsky's built this team. The best defenseman is not getting market value money. He got hurt for a third of the year. We still played great defense with a goalie off waivers, that defense in front of him, and Bussy played great. Now, here's the part that I want you to know before we go anywhere else. The $25 million is not settled, though, which is interesting because we know that Nikishin's unsigned. And so thinking about him and how he fits into this is really interesting because as a restricted free agent who just finished his entry deal at 925,000 a season, I think, he put up 11 goals, 33 points in 81 games in his first full season last year. All right, he was pretty good, right? And he lifted the cup. Playoffs, he wasn't where we obviously probably like him to be, but he's up and coming. We know Nikishin's going to be solid, right? At the least. Now his camp's looking for 8 million a year, and he's hinted he even wants north of that. We have 9.9 million in cap space, I think, and he's the only unsigned regular on the roster. And training camp is coming up. So part of why we're 27th is that hole, right? Where a top four defenseman is supposed to be. If he signs at 8, Carolina jumps over to 32 million and lands right around Columbus. We kind of bump ourselves up to the middle of the pack. I'm not saying we're going to do that or anything. I'm just thought experiments kind of interesting here. If we sign Nikishin, that's something he wanted. That would also make him our highest paid defenseman, which is crazy. But if we bridge him for 3 to 4 years, we stay near the bottom. If we trade him and there's been like interest from the Blues and stuff, we stay cheap and we get something back. So that's the actual decision sitting in front of Tulsky right now. And he obviously knows this. He thinks about this and looks at where we're at compared to the rest of the league. But whatever happens with Nikishin, it doesn't change what's already happened, right? The defense that won the Stanley Cup was one of the cheapest defenses in the NHL, and the performance that we got out of it, talk about return on investment, is insane. And it fits everything else about this team, right? No forwards making $10 million. Not one player on the roster got a single Hart Trophy vote. I don't know if you realize that. They led the entire league in goals from high danger and mid danger shot areas. And we got guys all over the place who are committed to this team. We're not buying stars. We're building structure, putting people inside them. Guys want to be here. The rest of the league is out there paying 35 to 40 million for a blue line, trying to find the guy who solves the problem for them. But we're spending structurally sound, and we're the champions. Gives me a lot of excitement for this year. Go Canes.